The pattern for a 45, 45, 90 triangle is the two legs are equal and the hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times bigger than the two legs. In a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the smallest side is x, the biggest side is 2x, and the middle side is x times the square root of 3. Let's look at some examples that involve some tougher math. If we look at our first example, we have 45, 45, 90, so we're going to be working with this pattern. And if we look, n is my hypotenuse, and my two legs are m and the square root of 10. So these two values have to be the same. So m is going to be the square root of 10 big. N, the hypotenuse, is going to be bigger than the leg. In essence, I know this side is the square root of 10. To get to my hypotenuse, I need to take the square root of 10 and multiply by the square root of 2. Now to get my answer, I need to simplify the square root of 10 times the square root of 2, which turns into the square root of 20. Now at this point, I need to simplify the square root of 20. 20 is divisible by 4 and 5, which turns into the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, which simplifies down to 2 square roots of 5. So the pattern, the formula remains the same. What changes is how I do my math. I actually have to simplify my radicals. In example 2, my triangle is not drawn to scale, so I'm going to redraw my triangle to scale and orient it just like my example at the top of my paper. My hypotenuse is 4, and my two legs are m and n. So in this example, I know the hypotenuse. So if I look at my example, if I knew the leg, to get to my hypotenuse, I would multiply by the square root of 2. So if I'm at my hypotenuse and I want to get to the leg, I'm going to do the opposite of multiplying by the square root of 2. I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. So if I want to figure out n in this problem, I'm going to take my hypotenuse and I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. I'm undoing going from the leg to the hypotenuse. I'm going from the hypotenuse to the leg. Now at this point, I just need to simplify. To simplify, I'm going to rationalize my denominator. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 turns into the square root of 4. And I know that the square root of 4 is 2. At this point, I can take 4 divided by 2 and get 2 square roots of 2. So n is 2 square roots of 2 big. If n is 2 square roots of 2, that means m is going to also be 2 square roots of 2. Those two legs will be the same. In example 3, I'm going to redraw my triangle so it's oriented like my example. It's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So I'm going to make this my 30 and this my 60 degree angle. My hypotenuse is n. My shortest side is the square root of 15, and my middle side is m. So in this example, I know my shortest side. I know the x side. So from the x side, to figure out the hypotenuse, I'm going to double my shortest side. So to figure out n, I'm going to take the square root of 15 and multiply by 2. The square root of 15 times 2 simplified is 2 square roots of 15. Now to go from my shortest side to my middle side, to figure out m, I'm going to take my shortest side, the square root of 15, and multiply by the square root of 3. At this point, I need to simplify my two square roots. This turns into the square root of 15 times 3, which is the square root of 45. Now the square root of 45 can also be simplified. 45 is divisible by 9 and 5. Which simplifies down to 3 square roots of 5. Last example. Again, I'm going to redraw my triangle so it is oriented like my example up top. My hypotenuse is the square root of 15. My shortest side is m, and my middle side is n. So in this example, I know my hypotenuse. I know the 2x side. So if I knew the shortest side, to get to the biggest side, I'd multiply by 2. To go the other way, I'm going to divide by 2. So to go from my hypotenuse to my shortest side to m, I'm going to take the square root of 15 and divide by 2. Now at this point, I can't simplify anymore. M is just the square root of 15 times 2. Now that I know my shortest side, the square root of 15 divided by 2, to go to my middle side, n, I need to take my shortest side and multiply by the square root of 3. Now if I look, this is a fraction. To multiply fractions, I'm going to turn the square root of 3 into a fraction. And then I'm going to multiply straight across. The square root of 15 times the square root of 3 over 2 times 1. Which turns into the square root of 15 times 3 over 2, which is the square root of 45 divided by 2. And at this point, I need to simplify the square root of 45. 45 is divisible by 9 and 5, which turns into the square root of 9 times the square root of 5 over 2, which turns into 3 square roots of 5 over 2. At this point, I can't simplify anymore. That's how big n is.